Hello and welcome to Infocus. I'm Bradley Valenaki. Thanks for your company. They say no one is above the law, but when the law does catch up with us, we need some form of assistance. We know the law to some extent, but the lawyers and you know the courts deal with such matters better than we do. So I'm privileged to have with me in the studio a public solicitor, Leslie Mamu. Say welcome to the program.
Thank you.
All right. Look, so we're talking about your office now, the public solicitors. Many times people mix or confuse themselves with other offices that also has the word solicitors, for example, state solicitors. First of all, explain the difference between your office and those very offices apart from that as well.
Thank you, Bradley. There are actually 5 of us. The public prosecutor is one of those 5, the state solicitor, the solicitor general, and the attorney general. So the public prosecutor is mandated under the Constitution to deal with the prosecution powers and functions of the state. The state solicitor, on the other hand, is mandated to provide legal advice, represent the state in international meetings, conventions, contracts, agreements. The Solicitor General, on the other hand, represents the state. When the state is sued, is brought to court, the Solicitor General represents the state and also the Attorney General. The Attorney General, as you know, is the chief or principal legal advisor to NEC. Under the Attorney General's Act, where the Minister for Justice is a lawyer, then it is the minister that is the Attorney General. Where the minister is not a lawyer, for example, the previous minister, Honorable Brian Kramer. Yeah. So the Secretary for Justice, Dr. Eric Kwa, became the Attorney General. Like I said, the Attorney General is either the Secretary for Justice or the Minister for Justice. So it's a position that is assumed as a result of the ministerial, the person occupying the ministerial post. Yeah.
All right. So more specific now, in as far as your office is concerned, tell us about its mandate. We understand that an Act of Parliament was passed recently, giving rise to its work.
Yes, the Office of the Public Solicitor is established by the Constitution. There are 9 or so bodies that are established by the Constitution. An example is the Auditor General, the Public Prosecutor, the judges, the members of the Public Service Commission, members of the Ombudsman Commission, the Clerk of Parliament. Those are examples of the 9 bodies that are established as constitutional institutions. The public solicitor is one of those. You see, the Constitution, when it established these 9 institutions, Parliament went ahead to enact Acts of Parliament to support those 8 other bodies. And so, for instance, you see the Auditor General, the Audit Act 1989, it was passed in 1989. You see the Public Prosecutor, you have the Public Prosecutor's Office and Functions Act, you have the Clerk of Parliament, you have the Parliamentary Service Act, you have the Ombudsman Commission, you have the Organic Law on the Ombudsman Commission that was passed in those days just after independence. But the Public Solicitor's Office remained in the last 46 years without a supporting legislation. You see, the importance of a statute or an Act of Parliament is to install those mechanisms to support the operation of the office and attendance to the mandate or the function that is given by the Constitution. So the Constitution does 2 things. It establishes the office and prescribes the function of that office. But the rest is left to an Act of Parliament. It's simply because if we included all these matters, all these mechanics in the Constitution, you will have a Constitution that you cannot carry. you'll need a tipper truck to carry a very huge book.
Of course.
And so it is to do with legislative drafting. And so that is left to an act of parliament, a subordinate legislation, to prescribe those matters to enable and assist the incumbent, the constitutional office holder, to attend to the mandate under the Constitution.
So all these years, how was the office?
46 years.
46 years. How was the office operating?
We were using provisions of the Constitution. An example is Section 214. 214 of the Constitution, which says, in the event an act of parliament or an organic law is yet to be enacted, this provision shall be used. So it provided for those instances where Parliament is yet to attend to its obligation to pass an act of Parliament. So our legislation, the Public Solicitor Act 2021, was passed around November, December of last year by 80 members who were present in Parliament.
So this actually, guides how the office should function, how it's been run, and all the other mechanics as well.
Yes, you understand the Public Solicitor's Office, as any other of those constitutional offices, are not part of the public service. The public service is made up of departments, and that you find in the Public Service Management Act, Section 20, which provides that the composition of the National Public Service are departments. And so the PSMA, the Public Service Management Act, provides the support for the public service, how the public service should be run. And those of us who find ourselves in constitutional offices, we need our own legislations to provide those matters, those mechanisms that we need to operate the office. And that is how important the PS Act 2021 is. We are at the stage of the Governor General issuing the instructions for publication in the Gazette. So it's nearing full operation now. Yeah.
So I guess that's a good thing for the office, but for the rest of Papua New Guinea as well.
It is, because it will strengthen how legal aid is dispensed, how legal aid is offered to our small people. The Public Solicitor's Office is mandated to provide legal aid in threefold. That is legal advice, legal drafting, and representation in court. And that legal aid to be provided to our small people. We understand our forefathers back then, when they inserted this provision in the Constitution, were mindful that our people do not have the means, the financial means, to afford private lawyers. They were mindful of the fact that the forces of economy, inflation, will result in a society where the bills or the legal fees will be too high for our small people to afford. And they envisage a society that will be full of disputes. And so the importance of a body that provides access to justice, access to the courts, provides advice on the law. And that is why they establish the office, and for the office to provide free legal service.
Pretty interesting discussions there. You touched small people. We'll take a break now, and on the other side, we'll continue with more of our discussions on Infocus. Welcome back to the program. You're watching Infocus. My guest still in the studio, Public Solicitor Leslie Mamu. Continuing on from our discussions before the break, you highlighted the small people and the intent of your office and serving this group of people. But there have been also people, esteemed members of society also coming to your office for legal advice as well.
Yes, they do come to our office. The persons that we are mandated to look after in terms of legal aid are the small people. And so you find the legal aid process being administered by my lawyers. There is a committee called the Legal Aid Committee. Every application, every person that comes to the office must apply for legal aid. And every application that is lodged is considered by that committee, the Legal Aid Committee. The criteria for legal aid is that the person must be a person in need of legal aid in the context of financial means. And so we find that most of the clients, most of the persons that we grant legal aid to are persons who cannot afford private lawyers. But we have the PS Charges Act 1976 that empowers the public solicitor to charge a reasonable amount of money where he sees that the applicant for legal aid, the person applying for legal aid, has some means to contribute towards the cost of the service of providing legal aid. And so that fee must not be confused with the kind of fee that private lawyers charge for their services. This is not such a fee. It is a fee that the public solicitor, in his discretion, assessing a person whether that person has some money to contribute. As we know, nothing is free in this world, and whether PS sees that the person can contribute some amount towards the cost of service, the public solicitor will charge that fee. And legal aid, as I have alluded to earlier, comes in three forms: legal advising, drafting of court documents or legal documents generally, as well as representation in court. And so we have members of society that also come towards us for legal advising. The public solicitor has a special standing also in the Constitution, together with the public prosecutor and the Attorney General. We are referred to as the three law officers of the country. And we participate in an important administration of this country, and that is called the Justice Administration, together with the Minister for Justice, as well as the National Judicial System, the courts. So the law officers plus the Minister for Justice plus the courts, we administer the National Justice Administration of the country. And the various parts of the administration, for us as law officers, the special references that we file, under the Constitution, Section 19, in the Supreme Court. And so an example is the Auditor General who was made a departmental head under the PSMA. The Auditor General approached the public solicitor on the propriety of the PSMA that rendered him, whilst a constitutional office, he was rendered by that legislation a departmental head. And you see the difference between a departmental head and a constitutional office holder. A constitutional office holder occupies a constitutional institution. A departmental head, who is the secretary, occupies a department that is established by the PSMA. And so you have the Auditor General, who is an head of a institution, coming to the public solicitor to seek assistance in filing a special reference in the Supreme Court. So you see the difference there. Yes. It's not just an ordinary person who is a person of need for assistance by the public solicitor, but you have an head of institution coming to seek the assistance of the public solicitor because the public solicitor is one of those few authorities under Section 19 that can file a reference. So that's the far-ranging function of the public solicitor.
Very complex.
Not just legal aid.
Of course. Now, going back to the little people we spoke about earlier on, for assistance, legal assistance, how do they actually come to your office? Not only here in Port Moresby, but elsewhere in the country. How can they access services from your office?
Bradley, the Office of the Public Solicitor is one of those few institutions in the public sector that are established across the nation. We are established across the nation except in Western Province, in Hela, and maybe in Jiwaka. The rest of the provinces we have already reached, and our lawyers are established, set up in those provinces. You have Western Province is a special province in that we are waiting for the administration to decide whether they are going to establish in Daru or in Kiunga. You have the administration that is set up in Kiunga, and you have the courts established in Daru.
Of course.
Yes.
On the provincial level as well, they are still yet to decide whether provincial administration should decide. So
yeah.
I think that's...
The other is Ella Province. You have Ella Province that is also a special case, and we are allowing the police and the government to sort out that province. And whilst after the safety of our lawyers are secured, are guaranteed, then I can send our lawyers in to be established there. But we see the need to also establish in Ella Province, but because of the peculiar circumstance that we face in that province. Yeah.
All right. Going back to legal fees, you explained the sort of assistance that people receive and if they are in that bracket to pay. But look, there are many concerns about legal fees, not from officers like yours, but also from private practitioners. What's your opinion on that?
The lawyers are the private practice. I really can't comment on the propriety of the amounts that they are charging because I am not practicing as a private lawyer. But you know, they're also making money for themselves. They have needs, and that is why it's like they're in the business of making money, of charging legal fees, and so I really can't comment on, like I said, the propriety of the fees that they are charging. But we are aware of the increasing amounts of fees, and that is why the increase in the number of people that are approaching my office. And so we are trying our best, and I must also mention that because of that, the increase in workload, we have approached government, and we did that through a submission in 2019 to the Department of Personnel Management, where the department approved 69 additional positions. And in those 69 positions, we are establishing new sections in the headquarters, sections of lawyers, and we intend to increase the number of lawyers in the provincial centers to 5 lawyers, and that is justified by the increase in the number of people coming to us. And like I said, one of the forces is because the private lawyers are increasing their fees. Yeah.
All right. So because of the workload and the submission that was put forward, are we seeing the response that's supposed to come?
The government, through Department of Personnel Management, has approved in principle. The government is yet to now provide the funding through the Department of Treasury. And so we are at that stage where we need the Department of Treasury to support us. We have made submissions in the past 2 years to government to fund those additional 67 positions. But like I said, we're still waiting, and we understand and appreciate the constraints faced by government in terms of the economy and the cash flow. Yes.
Yeah. Well, look, the demand for legal assistance, legal services, still mammoth, as you mentioned. From the top of your head, how many people do you receive on a daily basis for assistance in this regard?
I'd say around 40 to 50 people that come to our office every day to come, and most of whom are existing clients. But we are trying to provide a proper coordination for people to come, because people come almost every day, and the lawyers are busy attending to drafting of court documents, busy in court, and so we're trying to ensure that there is a set day that people must come in to see the lawyers and apply. And we have issues of legal aid applications coming in from all over the country. And so we are looking to tighten up on the procedures, the processes, so that there is a timely reverting of decisions, whether legal aid is granted or refused to our small people. Yeah.
All right. Interesting discussions there. Final one before we go to the break. For your office to operate throughout the year, give us an estimate of the finance or the budget you need.
In terms of the finance, the personnel emoluments is okay. We don't have hiccups in the staff, employees getting paid. But in terms of GS, the goods and services, currently we run with 3 million in conducting court circuits. Our operation in the office is very much intertwined with the courts, the national courts and the Supreme Court, and mostly the national courts, because the court has a program of taking the courts back to the people. And so you see, whilst they are established in the provincial centers, the main centers, they are now conducting circuits in the districts. And so that impacts on the kind of budget that we must have. But we ask for above 5 million every year, but we are given 3 million. And like I said earlier, we do understand and appreciate the constraints faced by government, especially in terms of cash flow. Yeah.
All right. Good discussions there. We'll take a short break now and come back on the other side with more. Welcome back. You're watching In Focus. Still my guest in the studio, Public Solicitor Leslie Mamo. We've talked about your role in the office. Now let's go outside. Your contribution towards the courts and our lawyers coming up. You've written books about many of the topics that have been talked about, bail included. If my memory serves me correct, 5 to be exact, books that you've written.
Yes, 5 so far.
Tell us about them.
The first 2 books are general books and on living your dreams and the human resource. But the next 3 books are law books. The third one is the first law book is the bail book. The second one is on national court, Supreme Court appeals, and the third one is on national court appeals. I'm working on my 6th book, which is on criminal justice, criminal inquest, as well as juvenile justice in one book together. The writing of books is not straightforward, easy. It's a discipline, it's hard work, it's sacrifice. And I mention this so that those of our friends out there who wish to write books, it is a decision that must be supported with sacrifice, discipline, time management, research, and experience. The easy part of the books, the law books that I've written, is because of the experience that I have. I write on areas that I practice, especially in bail, the appeals, and the new book that I intend to publish this year on the criminal justice. Our office provides legal aid in terms of criminal law, and so from the 12 years of practice, 13 years of experience, I've brought out those books on my area of practice.
All right.
Yeah.
I attended one of the launches recently, one of the books, and I've noticed eloquently the Chief Justice speaking about, writing this stuff, and he talks about, doing it in the midst of other responsibilities. The question is, how do you do it?
Yeah, the thing is, we do have time, and I'm always asked that question, where do you find time? One common mistake that we do is to try to manage time, try to manage money. These are things that you cannot manage. What you can manage is yourself. And so you identify those matters, those extra activities, extracurriculum activities.
Writing happens to be your extracurricular.
Yes. And most people, time is taken up in partying, in drinking, in socializing. If those extracurriculum activities are reduced, you'll see that you will have time. You will have time to do things like writing. And so I recall the wisdom by our late Narakobi, one of our pioneering lawyers in this country. He said that law is a gold mine for legal writers. There's so much that can be written about law because it's really an ocean. You pick which area of law that you can write a book on. And so I encourage, in saying this, I encourage the lawyers out there. We pass on from this planet without leaving behind the experience that we have attained and acquired. And so writing a book is a noble gesture, a noble contribution that you can leave behind, not just for the lawyers, but for your country, in the name of development.
Yeah, of course, many times people say the grave is the most richest place because people die with all these experience.
Skills and talents and potential, yes.
Now, one of the other areas with regards to what you're saying is the local jurisprudence that we've talked about, the Melanesian jurisprudence. Are we doing enough in the country to actually contribute to the wealth of knowledge?
I say we're not doing enough. The Constitution calls on us to develop the underlying law. And the underlying law must be developed using the customary laws as the main source to provide the principles that we require in building our local jurisprudence. Writing books is a mechanism. Books is a mechanism, it's a platform through which you can contribute towards developing our local jurisprudence. And so the challenge is always there for us as lawyers in the legal profession and also the judiciary to up our game in terms of contributing towards the development of the underlying law. The judges are doing their bit in writing judgments, and those judgments live beyond them. They are with us, those of us who are practicing, and those that come after us will also apply those judgments. And writing books is a platform for lawyers that senior lawyers, experienced lawyers can leave behind something for our generations to come.
All right.
Yeah.
Your target, how many books do you hope to produce in your lifetime?
It's might not be a good idea to set a target, but
it's like trying to preempt the outcome.
The target that I can set is try to publish a book every year. In the midst of all these busy schedules, maybe a workable target is producing one book each year.
All right. A good one there. Final one for me. Where can people find your books, especially for lawyers, for others who also have interest in law as well, the common people, the small people? How do they access your books?
The books are sold at UPNG Bookshop at the Waigani campus. That's where you can find the books.
All right. My guest again in the studio, Public Solicitor Leslie Mamu. So thank you very much, and we wish you all the best. If you have comments on tonight's program, you can email us on the email now showing on your screen, or if you have suggestions, you can also join us online on our social media pages. You can also catch this program a little later on YouTube as well. From all of us here in the studio, pleasant viewing for now. Bye-bye.